All right, good evening, everyone. So glad you could be here tonight with us. I want to talk to you on the subject of leadership and how you can be in leadership. I want to ask you, have you ever wondered if you have what it takes to be in leadership? Or better yet, do you have what it takes to be a powerful, influential leader? Although many sources point to several different types of leadership qualities, any person can walk into a room and they can display leadership potential based on the traits of expert, legitimate, and referent power. You may be wondering what that is. Well, we're going to get to that. See, many of you may be wondering tonight, a few of you may be wondering, do I have what it takes to be in leadership? Can I be in leadership? Or what would I need to be a good leader later on in life? As many of you are young, we can tell in our video. And so you may be wondering, do I have what it takes to be a leader? Do I possess those qualities to be even one day be in leadership? So the three forms of power that we're going to talk about tonight will ensure you that you can that anyone can walk into a room and hold the leadership potential needed to win over the room and to be a great leader. I'm going to explain to you tonight the three leadership powers based on your practice, your position, and your personality. And although there are advantages to each of these and a great ceiling for potential, each one can also bring disadvantages that we're going to discuss if we're not careful. So let's talk about the three different powers for a brief minute. The first one I want to talk to you tonight is on the main thing is expert power. Okay, so you're probably saying, what is expert power? Well, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's power based on practice. It's power based on your expert position. It's a form of personal power. It comes from experiences. It comes from skills. It comes from knowledge. And there's a saying that says, with expertise comes respect. And so, how many in here know a job you want to do one day? Any of y'all know a job you want to do one day? All right, what kind of job do you want to do?
Pilot.
A pilot. Okay, well that's really good because based on expert power, your skill and knowledge means that when you walk into a room as a pilot, you automatically have leadership potential because you are a pilot. You're the only one in the room that knows how to fly a plane. And so the passengers in the room, they can't be leaders because they wouldn't know how to fly a plane. They wouldn't know what all the buttons mean. And so therefore, you would exuberate expert power based on the practice and the skills that you have obtained in your lifetime and through college and through different things like that. So some of the advantages of having expert power are people are more likely to trust your insights and follow your lead. Okay, so they're more apt as if Brody goes in and he's a pilot and he walks in, people are more apt to trust him because it's like, listen, he's got the decorations, he's got the hat, he's got the skills. We know that they've hired him based on his expertise, so people are apt to follow him without asking questions. Okay, you can also use your skills to train others within the company or group, so they know that Brody's an expert pilot. And it's funny you mentioned pilot. We know the story of Captain Sully who landed a plane in the Hudson River in New York. And it's amazing. All those years of flying, I guarantee you now people will be asking Captain Sully, can you train us? Will you teach classes? Will you teach survival skills and different things of that? So now all of a sudden, he can train other people how to be great pilots and how to deal with safety issues and different things. And even in groups, not just in our jobs, but maybe in our church, maybe in our school groups, when we go in and we have expert power, we can teach others. But it does come with its disadvantages. QuickBase says that a true expert must keep developing. So when you're at an expert level, let's say like Brody wanting to be a pilot, you're always having to train and better yourself because at that expert level, other people are learning too. And so you always have to be developing, you always have to be learning, always have to be training. Now that's not always a disadvantage because you can learn new things, but it's something that once you have it, you have to keep bettering yourself. You always have to keep moving. Another disadvantage is you lose respect when you're outside of your practice. So you think of Brody, if he wants to be a pilot, when he walks into the room, If he goes into the grocery store, Brody is no longer the leader in the area. The manager of the store is. Brody no longer has that power and that leadership capability, because being a pilot in the middle of a grocery store is not necessarily important. Okay, so one of the disadvantages is when you leave your area of expertise, you're no longer a leader of that area. So our first main point is expert power. Our second point, our second power that we can use is called legitimate power. Well, what is it? Legitimate power is power based on position, okay? The position you're in. So say like a CEO or president of the company or vice president of the company or practice manager. You get power, you earn leadership capabilities based on your position. It's power obtained through demonstrating you have the skills required for a certain role. Okay, so if you go to school all your life, you go to business school, or you go to be a CPA and do taxes, you have leadership capabilities, you have power based on that role. Effective leaders should not depend solely on this leadership power. Okay, it's very hard. This is one of the ones you don't want to lean on most to be a leader, is just your legitimate power, your power based on position. As a pastor, that's my role as a pastor. I don't want to lean just on my role as a pastor to earn me respect, to earn me position, to earn me power in a room, because I can very quickly lose that. So some of the advantages to the legitimate power, and the list is a little shorter on this one, on advantages and disadvantages, but you get respect based on your position. So if somebody says, they walk in and introduce you and say you're CEO of the company or you're president of the company, immediately you earn respect. Immediately people look up to you as the leader because they called out your position, your title. A lot of times when a pastor first walks into a church, and I speak this from experience, a lot of times when a pastor first walks into a church, he has respect of the congregation because his title is pastor. So they say, this is Pastor Lance or Reverend Lance, and immediately my role as pastor earns me leadership. But that's not always a good thing, and we'll see why in just a minute. Better Up says that another advantage is you're recognized by your subordinates. Who is that? The people under you. Just like a military professional, a captain or a sergeant, when they go in, the people under them, because of their role, immediately has their focus, immediately has respect. When you walk into the room of a president or vice president of the company, immediately the people under them, if I walk in and I'm just an employee here, and I walk in and I meet the president of the company, immediately my demeanor changes. I see him differently, because all of a sudden his role is higher than mine. So what would be the disadvantages? Well, the disadvantages is it's given, but it can also be taken away. Why? Because most of the roles I just said are roles that you're hired for, or you have special qualities, but as being fired or possibly even retirement, as they're given, they can be taken away. Even as a pastor, I walk in, I have that role. It can be taken away. My license can be removed if I do something that is outside of the standards or restrictions for my denomination. And so you have to be aware of those things. You can lose it. It can be taken away. Another thing is, another disadvantage of legitimate power is respect is limited. Just because they respect you for your role, that only may last a week. Because your personality, what we're fixing to talk about in just a minute, may overstep that, and all of a sudden your role is diminished and people don't respect you because you're abrasive, because you're rude, and different things like that. So respect is limited based on your role. And lastly, the disadvantage, people respect you for title and necessarily not you as a person. This is something I know personally from being a pastor. When you walk into the room, they respect you because of your title. They respect you because somebody said that this is who you are. You're president of the company. You're in charge. But they don't respect you as a person because they don't know you as a person. They don't know what you possess. They don't know how you are. They don't know what you're going to say. They don't know what you're going to do. But they respect you only for your title and not necessarily for who you are as a person, because they haven't got to know you. Your leadership is solely based on your role or your position. So lastly, the last power I want to talk to you about tonight is referent power. Referent power. What is referent power? Well, we talked about expert power. It's power based on practice. We talked on legitimate power, which is based on your position. And lastly, referent power is based on personality. Why do I say it's based on personality? Because oftentimes this leadership is more of a natural instinct. It can't be trained. It can often be taught. It's something that's already birthed on the inside of you. It comes by being trusted and respected through qualities like honesty and integrity and dignity and good things of that nature, and great character is what gets you referent power. This is one of the best ways to be a great, effective leader. This power can't be handed to you by somebody else. No one can train you. No one can hand it to you and say, here you go, you're a great leader. But instead, referent power, being a leader based on referent power, means that you are someone who walks in the room and you combine all these leadership skills and you demand respect of the room simply because your integrity is so high. Now, I will say, because with referent power, a lot of times comes a little bit of length. Expert power, you earn it when you walk in the room. Legitimate power, you earn it when you walk in the room. Referent power, a lot of times, takes time to develop and be earned. For the last time, I'll use this example of being a pastor. A pastor is one that uses all these roles because my training and expertise earns me expert power. The diplomas, the different things of that nature. Walking into a room, being called pastor and introduced to the council of the church and said, this is your new pastor, and this is your new pastor to the congregation, earns legitimate power. But in order to be an effective leader in my church, in small groups, with my council, with my secretary and treasurer and different ones of that nature, it takes referent power, building relationships, and building a rapport with the group, and noticing integrity and trust and honesty. Now, the advantages is, Nicole Lipkin says, this is the greatest influence and the strongest desire to inspire others. The most influential leadership you can have is referent power. Is when you walk in the room, you don't demand respect because of who you are or because of the diplomas on your wall, but rather you walk in the room and you simply talk to people and you earn their respect because of who you are, because of your personality. Now, the disadvantage to that, and there's not many, there's only one disadvantage I have to this one, is clashing personalities. The hardest part is your personality is not always going to fit with everybody else. And there may be times where it's very hard to earn other people's respect because your personality just clashes with theirs. You don't fit with them, and that's okay. You can work toward that, but sometimes there will be friction, there will be headbutting and things of that nature with referent power. So tonight, I've talked to you about expert power, power through practice. I've talked to you about legitimate power, power through position, and I've talked to you about referent power, power through personality. These three are major forms of leadership that most any person may possess at any given moment, despite there being many more sub-qualities to perfect these leadership skills. So when you walk into a room, you have the power. Every one of you sitting here tonight have the power to own the room based on either your practice, your position, or your personality. So if you ever looked in the mirror and wondered if you had what it takes to lead, if you have at least one of these three qualities, you are well on your way to being a great leader. Thank you.